Natalie Gordon of McHenry County Jewish Congregation. Today I want to talk to you about God. We direct our prayers to God. But what do we know about God? Down through the ages, that has been a quest for many people. And back in the 12th century, Maimonides, considered to be perhaps the greatest Jewish philosopher of all times, he went through Jewish sources, the Bible, the Talmud, and he came up with a list of 13 things that we believe in. Because a credo is not something has been a part of Judaism really, but he came up with several that have to do with God. One, that there is a God. Secondly, that there's only one God. Third, God has no physical body. God is eternal, and only God may be worshipped. God communicates with human beings. The Torah comes from God. So, going back to God has no physical body. You may be aware of, particularly in the book of Exodus, when we say that God redeemed the Israelite people with an outstretched arm and a strong hand. Now, if God has no body, how is it that God redeemed us with a strong hand and an outstretched arm? Well, what we're dealing with here is metaphor. And that's the thing. We don't have the words to talk about God except through metaphor. Think about the high holidays. We sing, Avinu Malkeinu. Literally means our Father, our King. So we use that metaphor. God is like a father to us. God is like a king. But sometimes those metaphors lose their meaning. Since we, living in America, have never had a king, how do we relate to God as king? Do we think about kings on horseback with wearing a crown and going out with a lance, sitting on a throne encrusted with jewels? How does that help us relate to God? So sometimes the metaphors just aren't appropriate. When we talk about God as the rock of Israel, and of course when we say Israel, we mean the Jewish people. And I think that's a pretty good metaphor. You can depend on God. God is always there. The rock is always there. But my favorite metaphor, I think, for God is shepherd. What does a shepherd do? It keeps the sheep from harm, makes sure they get enough food and water, might carry the lambs that can't make it for the moment on their own. And indeed, we consider Moses, who was, by vocation, a shepherd, our greatest leader. So to me, when we say, Adonai ro'i lo etzar, God is my shepherd, I shall not want, that's a metaphor that I can relate to. It's important not to let those metaphors get in the way, and also to realize those are the words that we have. When we experience God, it usually isn't through words. Now, a 20th century Jewish philosopher, Abraham Joshua Heschel, said that God can be encountered in three ways: through the mystery and glory of nature, through God's word in the Bible, though one must understand that the Bible records the experience of being overwhelmed by God in the language of human beings, And thirdly, he said, most importantly, through sacred deeds, mitzvot. What we do, how we connect with others, brings us to a connection with God. I was reminded of encountering God through nature the other day when I walked outside and was hit in the face with the aroma of the lilacs blooming outside the door. And it was like just astounding. That aroma. What else can that be but an act of God saying, wake up, pay attention to where you are right now. Be where you are right now, and you'll experience the wonder of this amazing place we live in, the planet Earth, the universe, which tells us that, yes, God is here. Let us find God in all our places. Shalom.